So we're going to go over making a table from an equation. Here's our linear equation here. And they've asked us to make a table, and maybe they want it, they can give us many different things. They could say, you know, go from 1 to 10. They could say go to 1 to 100 by 10s, okay? We don't really know what they want yet, okay? But essentially what this table is going to represent is we have to solve all of our y values when we plug in values for x, okay? So if we were going 1 to 10, well, in our x values, we would list 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, blah, 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 all the way to 10. Okay, and for this one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go by tens, just so we have an idea, okay? So they want us, our x values, our first value being, actually, let's do our first value being 0, okay? So we go with 0, the second value would be 10, and we're going to constantly count up by tens. Okay, does this make sense? 40, 50, and I'm just going to skip ahead to the last one, 100 being our last one, because we'll have the idea up to this point, okay? So for the very first one, what we're going to do is we're going to replace the x in the equation, so let's do it in blue here, the x in the equation with the x value. So our equation originally read, and I'll call this equation 1, y equals 6x minus 2, but we're going to replace x with 0. So now it's going to read y equals 6 times 0 minus 2. What is 6 times 0? Do you know off the top of your head? Yeah. 0 minus 2, y equals negative 2. So our first value is negative 2. Let's do the second equation. Y equals 6. What do we replace x with in the second equation?
10.
10. So it'll be 6 times 10, subtract 2. Okay. What is 6 times 10?
60.
That's right. 60 minus 2, y equals
50.
So here's the second value in our table. Okay. Then we go to the third equation. So each value in the table we have to do a bit of work for. Third equation, what do you think we're going to plug in for x?
20.
That's right. Minus 2. 6 times 20 is actually going to, do you know it, or
12,000. No, 1,200.
1,200, or it's actually 120.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just 1
120.
0. That's okay. And then we subtract by 2. So y will be equal to 118. So we continue this pattern, okay? And I'm going to help us out here. I think the next one's going to be 178. Let me just see that pattern. Yeah. Next one's 178. Okay, so if I did 4, we do y times, and this is my guess. And the reason, I'm going to tell you how I got that. So the next one should be 6 times what value?
30.
30. So we go into our calculator, and 6 times 30 turns out to be 180. Okay? So it's 180 minus 2, which is 178. I got that. Holy. How did I get that? Well, what I did is I figured out what this was increasing or decreasing by. It's called the first difference. I figured this out by going 58 subtract negative 2. Okay? Not an easy thing to do mentally. But 58 subtract negative 2 is like adding 2. So it ends up being 60 if you plugged it in your calculator. So I subtract those two. Then I'll do the next pairing. Well, let's do 118 subtract 58. That ends up being 60 also. Okay, let's do 178 subtract 118. Turns out to be 60. So what's happening is this is going up
By 60.
every time. So I actually don't need to continue, well, not 16, 60. I don't need to continue all these equations. I know the next one's going to go up by 60. So that means this is going to be 30, I think 238. And we add 60 here. I think it's going to be 239, okay? So I can continue that pattern because it's linear. Linear have a constant rate of change. They constantly go up, the rise, will run by the same. Go down. Let's figure out our last one, 100. We'll actually use the equation. So we'll call this our last equation here. We'll call it L for the last one. Y is equal to 6x minus 2. Well, what are we replacing x with in this one?
100.
That's right. Replace it with 100. So y equals 6 multiplied by 100. And do you know what 6 times 100 will be?
6,000.
1,000.
600.
Yeah. 600 minus 2. 600 minus 2 is 598. And you can always follow that along with a calculator in case you didn't get it. But that's essentially how you create a table from an equation. We plug in x values and solve for our y values. And we knew this one was linear, so we had a constant relationship always going up by 60.